Hey everyone, we are going to talk about building with basic shapes as our starting vocabulary for how we can then turn these into some more complicated drawings as we go. So we're going to start with looking at circles and ovals and talk about how those can translate into cylinders. I'm going to start with my graphite. I have a 2B, a 3B, and a 6B. And then I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it with some charcoal so you can kind of see how they vary. I'm going to start with my 2B. I'm going to sharpen it. A little, you know, we often hear people joke like, oh, I don't know how to draw a straight line. That is actually the key to good drawing, is just having control over really basic things. So a circle is actually really pretty challenging to unfold. So there are different ways we can make them. First, we can try just to use a template if we need to. Sometimes that's a good way. If you have the right size, you can work it out that way. Another way to do it is to be really loose about it and just try to go around and around until you get one. I'm going to kind of set my size by plotting a couple points first. We'll talk more about mapping and plotting later. I'm holding my pencil overhand so I can not be just using my wrist. If I were in the writing position, I would be limited. So I'm going to work here so I can use my shoulder and my elbow. And I'm just going to try to kind of loosely reshape as I go. And then once I feel like it doesn't have like a squished part, then I can come in and I can try to use that underdrawing or armature, if you will, to see if I can make it symmetrical. Another way we can do it is to really lightly lay out some lines. We'll talk about this mapping method a lot later with more complicated subjects. I'm gonna separate it in half and half again. I think it's taller than it is wide, and so again, this we will follow up with more, but I'm gonna put the tip of the pencil here and hold this measurement here. And then I'm going to compare, and I said, oops, this is way too narrow. So what I think I'm going to do is just make it smaller. So I'm going to take this measurement and shrink it. So here and here. Let me double check and see. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to reshape. So imagine if you were making a street map. You could not just go in and draw them perfect the first time. There's no way. So this is how we can do complicated objects, as we measure and then map. So this will help us kind of see. I'm going to draw a connection point here. This seems like a lot of work for just a circle, but it's just a way to kind of help us understand how sighting and measuring will work. So I'm just trying to like plot out some points and kind of break it up. And it's called point to line to plane, and it's helping me kind of figure out where I can draw my circle. So I'm gonna, oh, that's too high. I'm gonna take these in. Kind of loosely. Sketch it out. Yeah, so it's close. It's a little squished right here. So that's where I can redraw. That's what we're gonna figure out all semester, is how we wanna draw and redraw and shift and edit and revise. I'm trying to use the material in a little bit of a different way. And we'll learn how to turn this into a sphere or the beginning of a face or an eyeball and so forth. And it also just kind of gives you some practice with muscle memory and having your hand kind of get used to making things. So try another one, try a different size one. This is with the overhead pencil writing grip, but I'm doing it kind of up and down. I'm going to shift and see if I can use the 6. Oh, I can see that it's a little squished, so I'll rework it. That's all kinds of squished. But it's all about like moving your map around and allowing things to shift and change. And I'm wanting you in this set of exercises to be okay with these like under working lines. They're not a problem. And when we go to like make a resolved real drawing, we won't have those showing, but it's really important at an early stage to know that you almost need those to find your footing. So it's how I've like crafted and recrafted. I'm going to see what happens when I shade something in. So what we've done here is this point, plotting to line, and then we'll turn this into a plane. And later we'll apply value to it. It'll be really fun to see how we can turn these into a ball. And what we'll find is that these really basic shapes build everything. So I'm kind of using some cross hatching, blending. This is my 6B. This is so heavy right here, so I'm going to try and kind of get rid of that. And there's something so fun about starting with basic shapes because it's just low stress, no worries. You have a little bit of practice with something so simple so that when we go to try to render other things, we've got some skills for it. And we can learn that it takes a lot of crafting to make it work. It's hard to make a straight line with the tip of something. Okay, so there we have it with graphite. I'm going to flip the page and I'm going to do it real quick with just circles. We'll get to ovals in a second with vine charcoal, and then we'll stop the video and we'll move back. We'll move into the ovals. So let's switch to using the vine. So we talked about in our materials studies, we had charcoal pencils, Nero pencils, compressed charcoal, vine charcoal, and compressed pastel charcoal. I don't know that we did a study with that, but we can. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of do the same thing. With a template. A little harder to control when I'm trying to work linear, but watch this. So what I did last time we talked, I had you break your sticks in half. They're usually this long. Break them in half. But then I'm going to also then have you take that and break it again, like so. so that they're in quarters, and watch what's going to happen. Oh, I'm holding it like this, not on a point. And that's where the charcoal comes in handy, because I can make a whole passage of value and pigment very quickly, as opposed to using a smaller tool. So it's that to that, or that to that, I guess. So I'm gonna, like I did on the graphite, just really loosely try to find it, and every time I make a pass, I'm letting my eyes say, oops, that's too squished, or oops, that's too bubbly, or something along those lines. And then once I find my footing, then I can change my pressure. Notice I'm turning my paper a lot too, because I am happier when I'm pulling. The pigment. And in a very short amount of time, I have a lot of information that I can work with. I just reshaped that. It looks a little squishy right there, so I'm going to reshape that. Not bad. We had talked about this chamois last time, this little piece of leather. So watch what happens with the charcoal. So I'm kind of pushing the edges, reshaping as I go. And so then I have a really nice base to build something on top of. And it didn't take very long. That's why the charcoal is fun, because we can learn a lot about value really quickly. And you can even come in and make it more complicated. This is a charcoal medium. So the hard is the one that's going to be sharper. The soft is going to be the one that makes a fluffier mark, and the medium somewhere in between. Uh-oh, I fear these are broken. I had talked about that if they have been dropped in shipping, that they might keep breaking on you. Could be bad. Okay, hopefully not. But we could see what happens if, oh yeah, that's not happy. If we make a little outline on it, kind of watching as I sharpen it. Let's hope this one doesn't break. So again, this is like really low commitment, because you're just drawing a circle. And at this point, you're not even really trying to turn it into a sphere. You're just trying to draw a circle. And then you know you're starting to have the data that you can use later to turn it into a circle, or into a ball, or the illusion of a ball. Typically, we're trying to get rid of these outlines, but to make them look volumetric, but just for practice. You should think of these like sit-ups. They're just warm-up exercises that feel good. They're not even warm-up, they're just exercises. If you feel compelled to keep playing with the material on these, you can. Fun, right? So the more of these we do kind of quick, not too important little studies, the more confidence you'll kind of build. So I'm going to try one real quick with the charcoal, compressed charcoal. I'm going to try it like I did before. So I'm going to measure like I did. Sorry. Take that measurement. Somewhere in there. And I'm still holding it on its side. I can make a much straighter line when I pull across. It's always pulling somewhere in the halfway point. Halfway, it's not quite halfway. And then we'll, so it's this plotting and mapping. So I'm just trying to kind of figure where I can put the curve, and then this will help create a symmetry. Hopefully this is kind of proving to you too why this messy old charcoal can be really fun to work with. Ooh, super squished. So I'm really correcting, trying to reshape. It could be the basis of a head. Yeah, I'm just super squished. I think I just need to go fatter here. So it's like allowing yourself to move something a millimeter, a fraction, a little bit, tiny, makes all the difference in your proportions. Yeah. Getting better. So point to line to plane. And this charcoal allows those planes to build pretty quickly. Yeah, not bad. All right, so we are gonna shift then to looking at how we take the circles and turn them into ovals. And then that is gonna help us understand if you're looking at a circle like this, or as it transitions and shifts in space and becomes a horizontal line. So we'll look at that in just a minute. I will be back in a sec.